Welcome to the Property and Coffee Podcast. I'm Matt Atkinson.
I'm Matt Skehan.
We'll be fueling your financial future with one coffee and property insights at a time.
Helping you navigate the property market like a pro.
Welcome to our second episode of Property and Coffee. Myself, Matt Atkinson, your host, and joined by Matt Skehan, the co-host of the podcast.
Thanks, Matty.
We're fueling your financial future one coffee and property insights at a time. And we'll both be helping you navigate the property market like a seasoned pro. Matt, let's get into it. Welcome, and we're back for our second episode.
Thanks, Matty. Good to be back.
Perfect. We're just going to touch around what we're going to be talking on today. So we're going to be touching on a bit of barbecue chat, what people are talking about in their social circles, some of the news bites that are coming up, and we're seeing that may have an impact in our space. For our featured segment today, we are joined by Sangram Rana, who is a financial advisor at Build My Wealth. He'll be joining us a bit later in the episode and sharing some of his expert insights, and then we'll be wrapping up these segments. So let's get into it. Look, we've just had essentially footy finals has been and gone in Melbourne, and people are now firmly fixed on looking forward to hopefully another amazing summer. With summer coming on, there's a couple of things we're thinking of. One, how do we stay cool on those really hot months? And is it a good time, or should we look to potentially buy an Airbnb near the ocean so we can take advantage of some of the beautiful beaches that Melbourne and Victoria has to offer? And, you know, Melbourne being seasonal, summer's good, but you also get the winter months. So what we're going to unpack a little bit more, and what's been coming up in conversations, is what should you be thinking about? And is it a good investment to be looking at purchasing a property such as an Airbnb where you can make the most of summer, but ultimately, recoup a bit of rental income in the potentially quieter months or months where you potentially not using that property? Maddie, let's dive in. What are your thoughts when someone comes to you and they want to look at something, potentially buy in a good summer spot with the option of looking to do some short-term leasing when they're not using it for their own personal circumstances?
Yeah, no, great question, Matty. And obviously coming into this time of the year, I even had some clients just recently looking at their first investment. We had this sort of, decision where they're sort of, I say it's head versus heart, right? Because obviously I think it's always hard to sometimes, and what I mean by that is the head. Sometimes pure investing is numbers driven, and you're looking at it very analytically, like a business, right? And then obviously the holiday homes, that more heart based response, more emotive, and sometimes you sort of let those beer goggles on, or the cloudy judgment as well. So yeah, so my 2 cents I think is, and even I asked these clients recently, is, do you want to go to the same holiday spot every year? Because sometimes people want to mix it up and have a bit of variety as well. I suppose there's other things to take into account now with increase in land tax and things like that as well. So some of those returns might not quite be there. To even give you an example, the Mornington Peninsula, from chatting to agents, things down there, sometimes through the colder months it's a bit softer, so you might not quite get the same income that you're anticipating as well. And when you want to use it is probably when you're going to get the peak dollars. So sometimes I think it's a nice to have, but I think it's definitely a head versus heart thing, and it just depends on what you value, what's important to you as well. So, yeah, as I said, I think there's an emotive appeal to it. I can see the sort of that emotional side, but pure investing, I think there's probably better ways to skin a cat or to allocate your funds, in my opinion. Yeah.
No, fair enough. I mean, I think that's sometimes the juggle. If you're in a position to do so, people have that with us. They want to, take advantage and spend some time in some of, Victoria's beautiful parts of the state. And when, you've got other, as you said, if you've got young kids or you're a growing family, you can't do that all year round. So you may need to be back closer to the city. And how do you maybe sort of take advantage and earn some income? I think that's, sometimes the dynamics people are trying to or sort of work through and see how their money can better work for them. Takeaways is, it seems like there's obviously no perfect answer, and you need to sort of make that decision based on your personal circumstances. But if you do go down that path, just make sure that you've done your research, so you understand what returns you may be getting. But also,
pressure set lifestyle as well. How much you're going to use it as well. I think that's the key thing. And as I said, do you want to go to the same spot year on year, or mix it up a bit as well? Have some flexibility. So, or do you, extra maintenance, I suppose, or whatever. Another property.
Especially living by the sea as well.
100%, mate. Or extra lawns tomorrow, whatever it is. So yeah, you got to weigh up all those sort of things. There's always a lifestyle cost as well. So
no, perfect. Moving into something that has been a topic, especially in Victoria recently during some changes around legislation, and look, it's probably been a bit more popular in other states in time gone by, is around a small second dwelling. So this is purely on where people may be looking to add that infrastructure to their current property. They've got the space. We're going to unpack that a little bit. So the first question is, by someone wanting to go down this journey, Maddie, firstly, people want to understand they're going to be spending a bit of money to do this. What may be the impact on their property value if they were to go down this path?
Yeah, so I suppose like secondary dwelling, or I suppose in other states, like sort of the term granny flat gets bandied around, but obviously it's not quite what it is anymore. So like I think it's still really early days, isn't it, Matty? I think but what I do see on the ground as well is definitely there's some buyer types that, for example, if I'm a young family and I want a backyard and somewhere to put the trampoline or whack a pool in, I might not want a building in the middle of my backyard, but if I've got I had some clients recently where they're from the UK originally, which a lot of migrants into Melbourne are, and they had the in-laws who are going to stay with them. They've got 3 kids themselves, so like having a separate dwelling or something like that's fantastic. And obviously some of the other migrants to Melbourne is Indian, Chinese or Asian heritage, and that multi-generational living is really common. So I definitely think there's an appeal for those sort of buyers, and then, given our rental yields are not always been the best in Victoria and Melbourne, there might be a way to supercharge some of those cash flows and sort of eat away at some of those holding costs as well. So yeah, I think there's definitely something to a consideration for certain people depending on where they're at in their journey property wise as well, and even from a from a future resale value, I think it's probably not tested yet. Obviously, it's super new, but I think it's I think there's definitely some value there as cost of living bites and more families sort of amalgamate and multi-generational living is more and more common. So,
no, that's fair. And as you say, right, just to be aware that what you think the value might be for you in terms of your family and your scenario doesn't always translate into how other people see that. Yes, where you potentially have that need and there's a multi-generational family or you're looking to sort of coexist together, people might place a bit more value on that. Whereas, depending where people are in their phase of life or family composition, they might see that as a bit of a hindrance on the property or might not sort of factor that in the same way that you as we'll call it your owner, and sometimes we do look at things with a bit of a rose-tinted glass, especially when it's something we own. They might not sort of see it in the same light.
Yeah. So we call that owner-occupier appeal as well. So as you know, the properties that tend to do really well and perform really well tick more boxes for more people. So, and as I said, I think there's definitely probably a market for it. It's like anything. It's a bit more potentially still niche at the moment, and obviously you've got to pick and choose it. But I think if it was me, I wouldn't just be doing it for the return on investment. It's probably more of a if there was a lifestyle need for it or something like that as well. Or
definitely,
I think that's probably the right approach because as I said, there's you're not going to spend $200,000 to make 400 type thing. It doesn't the maths isn't like that. But there's definitely some considerations from a if it's a home, or from the investment, from a yield, from a holding cost, it might benefit as well as you want to accelerate that debt reduction.
No, perfect. Well, definitely some key things there, I think, to, sort of think about and process if there was something, someone's looking to either do on their own property or potentially look to purchase one, some things to consider, in terms of how you would go about that and also just factor that in from a value perspective because it is a bit of like most things, might be a little bit grey in terms of what the sort of person looking at it might think of it.
So I suppose the question for me, Matty, is obviously you're on the finance side, so obviously relatively new still, but how best to finance them? If I was going to, if I wanted to put one in my backyard, or if I was looking at it from a dwelling standpoint, existing one there, how do the banks look at it? Property's a game of finance, but how does the finance stack up for them?
No, look. Fair question. And as you say, look, it's maybe something in years gone by, it probably wasn't as common, but it is something we're seeing more, especially with you kind of call it your cost of living, housing affordability, these type of scenarios where there's additional land, people might be looking at this. And look, from a financing perspective, you want to make sure that as we go down this path, not that financing should change it, but you want to make sure you're compliant. So with whatever you're building, make sure you've got, from a legal perspective, the plans and compliance requirements in place, permits, if you will. Because even if, you're putting something up, and you get to a time where you're selling it or looking to move on, and someone else is moving in, they're going to be asking the same question. So you also want to make sure that you don't run into any hiccups going forward. So the first thing is just to make sure that it's ticks the boxes, it's by the book. And that obviously feeds in really to the financing conversation, because the first thing, if you're looking to do it, the bank's going to say, well, I might start that journey back a step, is there's probably two ways you can look about going about doing it. If you've got equity available in your current home, you might look around accessing some of that. You'll go through your normal sort of servicing and what you would need to do to access that and motivate in terms of what you're wanting to do. So that's probably an option where you can go get the equity available to you and then look to use that for your build and spend. The other option might be going down sort of a construction loan type of pathway. Depending on what you're putting up, the size, and obviously relevant specs, you may need to go down the route, and obviously a bit more of I want to call it a rigorous process, but obviously prove that out to make sure you can get those funds available to you. But again, although it might be, especially in Victoria, slightly new and the legislation's changed a little bit, we probably don't deviate from what we know, which is, if you're going to engage someone to help you do it, make sure they are a professional in their compliance perspective and what you're putting up, everything's in order. The Victorian government is quite good in terms of stipulating, the steps and what you need to do. And then from a lending perspective, if you need to speak with your lender or speak with a broker to help you navigate, because again, lenders' policy will differ. So not all lenders will look at this in the same way. Yes, generally speaking, they would, but you want to make sure you understand you're speaking with the right lender that's happy to accommodate what you're wanting to do.
That's some good insights there, Manny. Appreciate it.
And that's it. And hopefully if you do choose, or someone chooses to go down that pathway, there's some good value uplift, and or ultimately, from a lifestyle perspective, it ticks the boxes in terms of what they're after.
100%.
Welcome back to the Property and Coffee podcast. We're joined by Sangram Rana, who is a financial advisor and director at Build My Wealth. Sangram, let's get into it. Thank you for coming on and joining myself and Matt this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Matt, and lovely Matt. It's nice to be part of your lovely podcast. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on, Sangram. And hard question first, mate. So
go for it.
I know you live in lovely Hampton. What's your favourite coffee, and where'd you get it from?
Favourite coffee would be a mocha, and we go to Cabin because they give a cookie, which my 20-month-old son loves, and he can't wait to get the cookie. So that's what we did this morning.
Awesome. Love it.
It's amazing. Some places might have good coffee, but if they don't incentivize the kids to get there, you might never get there yourself.
Indeed.
So let's touch on something else with your expertise and how you help working professionals and business owners. Just can you give us a bit of a flavor in terms of your journey into financial planning, and what you're most passionate about in your work?
Okay, great. Well, I've got a tax and accounting background, so that's my beginnings, which allowed me to have a more structured approach to financial planning. About 2018-ish, 17-ish, I moved to financial advice, given that I was more of a consulting and accounting, so I felt moving to financial advice was better for me. I enjoyed it doing more because every new client brings different flavor. Even though it's same superannuation for everyone, but the answer is different for everyone. Everyone have property, but the insurances might be different for everyone. So that flexibility, and then every new case with new excitement is something that I'm passionate about to add value to every family.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Great.
So from your perspective, how do you define a good financial plan? So I know there's probably a fair few key pillars you look at, but just at a high level, simplistic, what does a good financial plan look like?
Sure. I would say a good financial plan would not be same for everyone. That will be a basic to start with. And then after that, a financial plan should listen to the actual need of a client, and rather than a product and jargons inside it to sell. All we do is buy shares. A good financial plan should be to buy shares for you. So what they actually need, so if they understand leveraging, would they want to buy property? that should be a consideration inside a financial plan. I would say 3 pillars, Matt, would be, first would be for me, or at least at Build My Wealth, would be protect. First is let's protect, let's have insurances, life, TPD, trauma, income protection. Let's have the correct structures in place. That's the first step, because no point having a plan for make 10 million if you can't work tomorrow. Then after that, after we've set the protection piece, the next part would be to grow. So the growth phase would the next pillar in my financial plan for my clients, irrespective of different stages they are. So, which would be to potentially set up a self-managed super fund, or have an investment bond, or take more loan to invest into shares or buy property, whatever it is for their specific need, for their requirement. And then the last piece potentially, or very importantly, is the legacy, right? So we're doing it for our next generations. So do we have the correct structures? Potentially we did, because that was the first step. If we don't, if they're coming me for the legacy piece, is the legacy, how are we passing on the wealth to the next generation, who are the caretakers in my world, to pass it on to the next generation, and then so that the less tax is paid and the more wealth is within the family and within the bloodline.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. I mean, that's quite clear in terms of the different pillars people should be thinking about. And also, everyone's on a bit of a different journey where they might fit into that, and also thinking about what their next step might be, depending on where they are on their financial journey.
Correct, Matt?
Moving on,
Sure.
what's one simple financial mistake you see people make regularly? And, is there something they can put in place or a simple step they can take to avoid that?
It'll be hard to name one, but if whatever top of my mind at the moment is leaving it too late, coming at 57, let's do a retirement plan. I don't sell I'll make you rich tomorrow plans. So my plans are more of compounding, more of regular investment strategy over the long term. So don't leave it too late would be my quick one mistake people make. So start as early as you can. The best time to start is yesterday, but the second best is today.
Perfect. Sound advice.
I think, Sangram, I think that echoes a lot with my world and property as well. So the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, right?
Yes.
So get going. So finally, in this foundational section, like in today's economic climate, like with volatility, interest and inflation, what's the most important advice you'd give listeners, or what's the piece of advice you're giving to your clients on a daily basis?
Don't listen to it. Right? So what does that mean? If you have a plan, put head down, have faith in your plan, and keep investing. Don't listen to what Trump's going to say. Don't listen to what your buddy on the barbecue just said. You have a plan, you have faith in it, just keep investing. Keep with your plan, and over the long term, that compounding, that leveraging will add value, and you'll be laughing at it rather than changing it every 2 days or every 6 months because somebody stressed you out.
That's sage words, I think, Sangram. That's as I said, you can't. Yeah, that's echo that. It's wise words.
Good. Drowning out the white noise, essentially,
Indeed.
just staying focused, which is sometimes hard to do, right? You can access so much information or data at your fingertips through social media platforms. It's very easy to hop on and you see, what you perceive to be as someone doing something and really sort of making a huge return. And you always ask the question, is that something I should potentially do? Because my strategy is, might be different. And as you rightly pointed out, longer term growth, how that comes about might not be as apparent in the short term as some other, potentially more risky plays.
Indeed.
Shifting the focus a little bit now to essentially our core demographic here, which is working professionals and young family. Typically, these people are time poor. You're trying to juggle, career progression. You're trying to save for the family home or potentially save for another property.
Yeah.
Put money or the appropriate amounts away from a retirement perspective. And then, you might be starting a family or, your family's building out. How do you help them essentially balance all those, independent, but important buckets to make sure there's a bit of balance across the board as they progress on their different journeys?
Sure. During the initial meeting, I would say tell them my job is to be there. So if I'm there, I will have a professional circle around me, which will help you with different stages. I'm not there to solve each and every problem, but I know if there's a problem, a lawyer can help, or a buyer's agent can help, or a mortgage broker can help. And that is my job to find those issues and help you and connect you, and I will educate you what to do in the next step. So it's me being available for them and pushing them is what I tell them. So when I tell them, if you're not going to send me this, I will follow up with you. Do I have your permission? And more than likely, they're happy about it. So availability, and then living up to the promise that I will call them.
Keeping them accountable.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. So just on to the next one. Obviously, the flavour of our podcast is very Melbourne, coffee and, as well. So property prices, interest rates are high. The old rent versus buy debate. Where do you stand at the moment on that? With obviously rates moving smorgasbord at the moment, and obviously they've gone from low to high, but rent versus buy, we get asked.
The answer will be boring. It depends. The answer is always it depends in this scenario. The reason why it depends is because everybody's different. Their plan is different in line. Maths would say potentially if you rent, you can build 10 million as an example. But if Hart wants a $4 million property, that's what Hart wants. This is why they're working for it, right? If they want to live in a massive property, they have 7 kids, right? Well, not sure if somebody has 7 kids anymore, but
it's a lot of kids these days.
But
a lot,
3 or 2 kids, and that's what they want. Pool. That's what Hart wants. That's what money is there to provide them. They might lose 2 million over the long term, but it's not always about maths. So it depends.
Great. I think it's a great answer. I think even ourselves in our own journey, renting and home and kids, I think that perspective changes as well. So kids in the mix. So
good. So mathematically, renting potentially makes sense, but Hart doesn't want that.
Maybe stepping into the next phase, as we all know, superannuation, important part of essentially making people contribute towards their retirement. Is there something else, a simple method that you would suggest, or you would speak with your clients about, which is an effective way for people to boost their retirement savings, on top of obviously the superannuation guarantee?
Sure. Let's just talk about superannuation to begin with. So apart from what your employer puts in, most of the people should already know that they can contribute up to 30,000 in 2025, 26, which is the current year. Not sure when are you going to listen to this, but this year we have 30,000 as the cap. So you can, if your cash flow allows, you can put into it, but do you need money outside super or inside super? Because once the money's inside super, it's locked in until you're retired. So apart from putting money into super, the next step is potentially setting up self-managed super fund to allow you the flexibility for the assets you want to buy in, which could be, I don't know, do you want to buy a property? Do you want to buy a commercial property for your clinics? Do you want to buy a rental property? You can buy gold. Not that I suggest you to buy gold. You can buy crypto if that's what you want to do it. But definitely seek advice for that, because just because your friend said you can set up SMSF and let's just buy some crypto on it is not the appropriate way, because as my previous answer, it depends, does it apply to you? Outside super, regular investing would work wonders on long-term compounding. I met this lovely gentleman who started investing probably 1980s. He came for me for advice. Very simple person. I unpacked. He has 15 million in SMSF, 30 million outside, a simple wage earner. Well, at the moment, he's a family office head of his own family. How did he do it is what I asked. He said, leveraging, investing, and only aiming to hope for 8%. So not going over the top that somebody said 20%. Over the years, with leveraging that 8% outside, made him a massive 45 million family office.
Just that long-term compounding growth.
Indeed. And having faith in his plan. So not stressing and buying and selling because market is going up and down. So there's some tax investments or tax effective investments known as investment bonds, which potentially can help the clients. Regular investments, a great benefit of that is after 10 years, you can draw down from it tax-free. Yes, tax-free. So, and there's no capital gains tax inside the structure. So you can buy and sell as much as you want as long as it's inside the structure. And after 10 years, you draw down tax-free. They could be investing for your kids' school inside the structure, potentially, which is tax-free money as well. And then regular investments, easy, simple way, is other things people can do.
Perfect.
And
there's some good nuggets of information there.
That's inspiring. I think, you learn from others, and, I think from the 1980s, it's great to have those clients that you can learn those nuggets from as well, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah. So just segueing here a bit, for families, you've talked about protecting and risk is an important thing. Obviously, you've got all this wealth, but is there a way that you manage that? How to make sure you're not overinsured or underinsured? From the life or from the insurance standpoint.
Sure, indeed. So my answer is logical to that. So I usually make a joke with my clients. I ask husband and wife's income. So let's assume husband is earning 150 and wife is earning 200, and they're 45-ish. They're going to work another 20 years. So wife earning 200,000, if he never gets a salary raise, works for another 20 years, she's worth 4 million to the family. Okay, so if she cannot work tomorrow, family loses 4 million. And my joke here is, guess who's winning tonight? The wife, because she's worth 4 million versus 3.5 the husband. So in that place, I tell them, don't fight with your wife today, because after the day, her value, she's worth 4 million in that scenario. So it's very logical based, the calculations. So obviously people are not made of money, so they may not get 4 million worth of life for TPD. So then the answer comes the expense based. So let's cover your mortgages, maybe next 10 years worth of tuition fee for your kids, or your investment properties. Let's cover the debt on that. Income protection is just the income protection, the 70%. Which is again in 26 a year. So very logical, expense based is my calculation. So, and then the answer at the end is you're not made of money. So let's see what we can achieve to the amount.
I like that approach, logical, and it makes sense. Even for, if I'm a buyer's agent, but that makes sense to me. So I appreciate that. It's good plain English, good insights.
No, 100%. Look, as we look to close out this conversation, you obviously shared some really good insights and some value that people can take away and give some thought to. But what I might end with is just for someone that's looking to start their financial planning journey, speaking to someone like yourself, what would you say to them in terms of 3 action points that you would say it's worthwhile them thinking about and speaking either with their partner or spouse in terms of getting that in place?
Just take action would be easy. So usually the first meetings, people have 10 things they want to work on. I suggest them, let's do bite-sized things. So let's figure out one portion because people are busy. 10 things if you want action in one way. Every month their life changes. So like I said, let's get the protection piece first in place. So now they have their debt and their assets protective. Their biggest asset, their livelihood, the ability to earn money is their biggest asset. So once we've got that sorted, then the next part would be, let's talk about the next step. Are we planning for savings for your kids' education, or you want to help your kids in 10 years' time to buy a property, or you want to fly to Europe every 10 months? Do you have cash flow for that? So step by step, we can't do everything in one go. We can if everybody's free and have the motive, but life takes over. You got kids to take on. So step by step.
Break it down.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks, Sangram. There's some lots of gold nuggets in there. Really appreciate your time for coming on and sharing with our listeners. So that's some really sage words. So really appreciate your time and insights.
Thanks for having me, Matt and Matt. I'm very happy. I know you both for a while now, so I'm quite excited to be here. Thanks.
If you'd like to keep on receiving our property insights and golden nuggets delivered by our guests, please hit like and subscribe to our channels, and that way you won't miss out any future episodes that are released. Until next time, thanks for joining us.